Let's talk a little bit about Horizon Forbidden West. I had a very busy weekend lost in this dystopian world that Guerrilla Games put together for us. I was playing as Aloy, trying to uncover the mystery of the world, but the game as well, as it extends and expands well beyond the borders and limitations of Horizon Zero Dawn, which was already an impressive enterprise. It was a massive experience with lots of cool surprises and mysteries. It was really fun, and I actually had not an issue, but I had some concerns about how they were going to improve and extend, because I felt like there was a pretty nice containment around the storytelling in Horizon Zero Dawn. But they managed to do that, and this is a game that does offer tons and tons of value in its storytelling. Some of the best interactions, I think, honestly, between characters as well. Really, really beautiful cut sequences, nuanced performances from characters. Of course, we know that Carrie-Anne Moss is in this game. Angela Bassett is also in this game. But Ashley Birch is phenomenal as Aloy. She's just such an incredible voice actor. And of course, we're going to get into massive boss fights. It's an action role-playing experience, so it's not just about, the story that it's telling. There's a great emphasis on exploration and trying to, find the secrets, and you're resource gathering like crazy, you're crafting like crazy. You're going out on side missions, you're learning how to cook all kinds of dishes that will buff you a little bit before you get into some of these big fights. And you see a massive map with a lot of interesting ideas and a lot of interesting topography. You're going to be in the snow, you're going to be in swamps, you're going to be along coastlines, you're going to be swimming underwater, and you're going to be fighting a whole host of all kinds of mechanical monsters. And it's, incredibly challenging because for the most part, you're like a cave person. You've got, at one point, one of the characters I was fighting says, "You've got sticks and stones and you're fighting me." And, that there's truth to that. And I felt, that in the first game, I felt a little bit of frustration. It's like, why is everyone so OP? And I've got my bow and arrow out here, maybe with some acid things on it or whatever, or like a freeze bomb or something, but they're shooting lasers at me. Well, there's a lot more lasers and a lot more combat and a lot more ferocious monsters that, can swim better than you and have giant jaws and might have tails, and they might swing around and smash you and send you flying. And I felt like, what the hell? Like, I've got these abilities, I've got these latent skills as Aloy, and I've got an understanding of why there is this technological kind of imbalance in this world, this broken world, more than other characters in the game. Why can't I get a laser gun? Why can't I build something a little bit more powerful? Why am I crafting arrows fighting this giant robot? And also, I felt a little bit of like, we could have extended the melee combat in the game, because you do get into a lot of confrontation with different enemies where you're using your spear, and it's effective, it's powerful, and you can power up the attacks and stuff like that, but you're not really doing parrying moves or blocking. It's not as, interesting dynamically as something like a From Software game, where parrying and blocking and dodging and stuff is really important. You can dive roll and you can slide under enemies and stuff like that. You do have mobility for sure, but I just felt like the sort of face-to-face combat could have been cooler. And I also feel like scrubbing everything that has been powered up from Zero Dawn and sort of giving the player the opportunity to level up again, basically from zero, and facing off against some of these creatures as if it's the first time, felt a little bit out of place with the level of authenticity that the storytellers and the craftspeople that built this game had endeavored to achieve. It just felt like, why am I like relearning a lot of the stuff that I was already so kick-ass by the end of Horizon Zero Dawn. And that, that's not to say that the grind was grueling, because certainly what I was doing was playing this game in huge chunks. Like, to beat the game over the weekend, I think I put 35 hours in just to beat the main campaign. I did a few side missions. It's a massive game. But I was fighting a lot of bosses, and I did feel like it's silly that I'm just like dodge rolling out of the way instead of like really getting into some head-to-head, like feeling powerful type combat with some of these creatures. And so I was struggling a little bit with that. I was also struggling a bit with the climbing in the game, because there are some things that you can do through the accessibility where you can make it a little bit easier on yourself, and I eventually did do that, but you really don't know where you're going to be able to climb until you use your focus to see the walls and the world around you. Now, you can climb a lot more than you could in Horizon Zero Dawn, which I talked about in my first look at the game, and I like that, but there's a set path. It's not like Assassin's Creed or even Breath of the Wild. You can't climb anywhere. You have to go on specific routes. And so what you can do to make things easier on yourself, and this is what I did, is you go into the accessibility settings, and you can kind of set that on all the time, so you can kind of see the lines and stuff, and that makes it a lot less frustrating. But I was, you know, climbing up some walls and thinking that I could like get to another handhold, but oh, it's not a handhold. It just looks like one, and I was falling, and you know, there was a little bit of a jank there, and I couple that with the jankiness of the fights, and there are a couple of moments where it feels the imbalance of playing and fighting against a boss just was getting on my nerves, for sure. But at the same time, I didn't complete everything in the game. I didn't go and boost every weapon that I have. I didn't go and collect every single thing. I was able to beat the game and get through the game with the tool set that I had acquired, and I picked up some cool bows, and I beefed up my staff, and you can obviously augment the weapons in some specific ways, and you get new costumes and stuff. I know that there are ways, if I had spent even more time in it and explored more of the world, I could have accessorized myself to be a lot more powerful later on in the game. Now, I did manage to, you know, beat the game with the equipment that I was able to pick up in as much that I explored, but I did find it a little bit weird. Like, Aloy is such a clever person, but she's fighting with sticks and stones, you know, comparative to some of the enemy types that you get into. And so, that, you know, those are my main quibbles. I gotta say, I'm not crazy about the outfits and the costume choices in Horizon. I talked about this in Zero Dawn back then as well. It looks like, you know, I think that there's some tribal influence in there for sure, and probably the developers looked at all kinds of tribal influence from, you know, previous tribes, because this is an interesting, like, we're going back to primitive days using whatever these people have been able to pick up from the remnants of society and civilization. But sometimes it just felt a little, I don't know, superfluous, or just like crazy accentuated. There was one costume that I picked up. I won it through being so badass in the game. But I basically looked like I was wearing a chicken outfit, and it's like, you know, I don't really want to look like a chicken. I mean, it's cool, I guess, that you have these flamboyant sort of things, and you got like this chicken head thing going. But I don't know. I got beyond that for sure. You know, it's not the world building that I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't fall in love with it in Zero Dawn. I didn't fall in love with it again here. But there's certainly such a commitment to it that I admire and I respect, and I love the ambition of the game too. And I talked about, like, you'll go around these towns and you'll meet all kinds of people, and there's just so much life and vitality in the game that is really hard to it's irrefutable. Like, it just bowls you over how much work is in this game, which has taken 5 years to make, right? Like, you know, Sony and Guerrilla Games invested a hell of a lot to make this thing very special. And of course, it's impossible to put down once you start playing the game. And that's really where the game, what the game is about. You know, it's the experiential elements. It's the getting past fights. It's getting into conversations. It's learning the skill sets. It's, you know, wiping your brow after you've done something really remarkable. Also, like, I just loved the gliding that you could do in the game. This is one of my favorite pieces that I did, and it's not too far into the game, but you pick up this incredible gliding ability, and it shows you how large the world is, because you just come into this early town that you find early in the game, and I've tried my best to not spoil too much with the clips and footage that I've shown in here, but I got to tell you, it's so big, it's really hard to feel like you are spoiled by whatever you see, because you're just going to keep exploring and exploring. There's a lot of value in this game. But yeah, I mean, primarily it's the combat I wish was a little more nuanced, and I feel like the technology that Aloy has could be a little more interesting. That could have evolved, I think, a little bit more with this sequel. I think it's a wonderful game, and I absolutely, just like I said in my first look, I mean, this is why you have a PlayStation. Whether you have a PS4 or PS5, you cannot lose with this game, and I'm sure it will come to PC just like Horizon Zero Dawn did. It's definitely one to play. I don't think that it hits me emotionally like some of Sony's other big... It's not Last of Us or Uncharted or the Spider-Man games, but it's still really, really beautiful, rock-solid entertainment. I'm interested to see where we go now with this franchise, because there's some really fantastic mysteries that get revealed that, definitely push the lore in very interesting new ways that I was not anticipating and not expecting and relished. But in terms of where we are now, this does feel, like an improvement with the elements of the gameplay and the pieces of the gameplay. But it doesn't sort of revolutionize what I experienced with Horizon Zero Dawn as well. And I felt like Horizon Zero Dawn was such a shock because nobody expected that this team that had made Killzone was working on such a robust and gorgeous and ambitious role-playing game. And that's exactly what they did with that game. And that's still, the first one is still very playable, by the way, in 2022. It's not like the mechanics are so archaic that you're not going to have a great time in there. And if you haven't played Zero Dawn, it really will feel weird to start with this one. Like, you need to play Zero Dawn first. This is, arguably a better game, but less of a shocking new revelation. Still incredible work. I know that people that love this lore and love this franchise are over the moon about Horizon Forbidden West. I think it's great. I would give it an 8.75, so right between an 8.5 or a 9. But it's not an 8.5, so I have to give Horizon Forbidden West a 9 out of 10.